Hello everyone and welcome to the Waffle channel. It's Shannon here, and today I'm going to do ink smooshing with an acrylic block. I got the balloon message stamp set there. I'm going to use that later. There's my acrylic block that I'm using today, and I have two watercolor panels because I am going to be making two cards. I have an array of, like a rainbow array of waffle flower inks. I'm going to ink up this acrylic block with each one of those colors. Starting with my lightest shade, which is the yellow, and I'm working my way down. And I'm trying to be careful not to overlap because I don't want to contaminate my ink pads. I'm using the corner of the ink pad and my index finger, the pressure from my index finger, kind of control where that ink goes. Or my pointer finger, I'm sorry. I'm trying to control where that ink goes. And when I'm done, I'll have a beautiful rainbow of inks all on this ink pad. Chirp Chirp is my final color. Just going to ink up that corner there, that edge, and then I will mist it with some water. That little mist bottle there, spraying it, and I want that ink to pool. I'll hold it up to the camera here so you can see. I want that ink to pool, but I don't want it to be so saturated with water that it's dripping off the acrylic block. Okay, so I'm going to center it, push it down here, and then lift it up. And I'll have a little bit of pulling. I will just kind of move that ink around where I want it to go by using the corner of the acrylic block. I'll clean off the block here, and then I'm also going to suck up where it got a little muddy. The ink colors ran together and they just made it look a little brown, so I'm going to suck that up with a paper towel. Okay, so now here's my second panel. I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm inking up my acrylic block with my ink colors, the same ink colors in the same order. And again, I'm trying to be careful to avoid overlapping, especially colors that are a little bit lighter than the color that's beside it or I used before. Okay, misting that up. Got that pooling, and now I will smoosh it down. No muddy colors, no running, so I'm leaving that one alone. Okay, I've let them both dry. The panels are dry. There's some white spaces. You can see some where the ink didn't quite spread all over. So this is why I am going to do the exact same thing again. Now I have been very careful and I've kept all my inks in the same order, so I am actually inking up this acrylic block exactly the same as I did before. And then I'm stamping it directly on top of where I smushed before. So all the colors are in the same spots. And see, I got a little bit of muddy there, and I'm just going to clean that up. And now I've got fewer kind of white spots. That's why I'm doing it twice, just to kind of, I don't want to have as many white spots. I kind of want it to be more of a solid rectangle of color. Okay. And this is the second panel. I'm going to do the exact same thing again. Pull that up, clean up where it got a little bit muddy, and there, that's done. Okay, so now they've dried, and now I'm ready to do my stamping. So the panels are dry. I did trim them down a little bit because it was 5.5 by 7.5. I've trimmed it down to be slightly smaller than 5 by 7 because I will be making a A7 card. I pulled off the balloon strings, the trio of blue strings that is in the balloon messages stamp set, and I'm stamping it on the panel in VersaFine Onyx Black ink. VersaFine is a waterproof ink, which is good for what I'm going to do later, which is add a shadow with watercoloring. Okay, now I've pulled off the balloon outline, and I'm going to add a balloon with this stamp to each one of the balloon strings. And they're all being stamped in that VersaFine Onyx Black. Okay, picking it up, stamping it here, and then cleaning it off. One more balloon to go, and then I'll do my sentiment. And I apologize for my head getting in the way. I'm trying to make sure the line of the balloon and the balloon string are directly on top of each other, so there's no overhang or gaps. And I kind of have to get down in there to do that. Alright, so the balloons are done. Now it's time to stamp my sentiment. I'm going to do the happy birthday sentiment. That's in the balloon messages stamp set. I'm going to stamp it right over those balloon strings in the VersaFine Onyx Black ink. And I'm going to ink it up twice, stamp it twice, because this is watercolor paper and I want to make sure those letters are very clean and crisp lines. That texture can interfere with your stamp lines. Alright, so here's my second panel. I'm going to use the balloon strings again, but I'm not going to center them. I'm going to stamp them actually to the left of my little rectangle. And I also pulled off another sentiment. This one says, "Go to your happy place," which is really cute. And I'm going to ink both those up with the VersaFine Onyx Black ink. Stamp them down. And again, I will ink that up and stamp it twice just to make sure my letters are clean and crisp. Clean those off. Now to move on to the balloons. So I'm now going to use the solid balloon image as opposed to the outline that I used before. Center it over that balloon string. I like to start with the center balloon so I can make sure my spacing is right. If I start with the left or right balloon, I might not have enough room for the center one, so start with my center balloon with this trio of strings. I'm going to stamp this twice. That way, because this balloon is it's a solid image and of the texture of the paper, I need to stamp it twice to make sure it's a nice solid black. Alright, going to line up that second balloon. Pick it up, and I will also stamp this in black. All my balloons are going to be in the VersaFine Onyx Black. I know black might be a little strange for balloons, but I really like how those black balloons pop on that rainbow watercolor background. I really, really like it, so I went for it. Gonna line up this last balloon here. And once I stamp him, all my stamping is done. And I have to do it twice just to make sure you can see how it's not solid. I have to stamp it twice to make sure a nice solid black image. Okay, so now my panels are stamped and done. Now I'm going to add a shadow around the strings and the balloons. So I have the Peace of Mind ink. I'm smooshing it onto my acrylic block, and then I will mist it with some water. And then I'll pick up the ink off the block with a brush, and I'll use that watered down ink to create or to paint a shadow around the balloon strings and the balloons. This is going to just help them pop off of the paper a little bit, add some dimension, some depth, some interest. And it's especially nice for these balloons because unlike the solid balloons, they don't pop as much against the background, so this just helps take them one step further. I really like to add balloon or shadows onto cards. It's just, people are always surprised and really impressed by the three-dimensionality it adds, and it's really, really easy to do. So just finish up around all those strings. Now I'm going to move on to the other panel and do the exact same thing on this panel with the solid balloons. Going around the strings and then around the balloons. This again just adds some dimension and depth. This is going to be basically a single layer card. I will glue this color panel down onto my card base, but it's basically a single layer card, so this adds a little bit more interest and depth to the design. Okay, so now my watercoloring is done. I'm going to do some details with my gel pen. So the very first thing I'm going to do is go around all the letters in my sentiment. This way the letters really pop away from the strings. Because I stamped the strings and the sentiment in the same color, you can kind of lose the letters. So I'm going around all of them with the white gel pen, and that'll help you separate the letters from the strings, and it'll make the sentiment a little bit easier to read. And just going around real quickly with my gel pen. I do like to stamp the sentiment over the strings. I've done it before. And so this is a really great way to keep the sentiment where you want it to be, but still have it, pop away from the image. Okay, and now I'm just adding some glares with my gel pen. This is also going to push that three-dimensional look. a little bit more. And now that I've all done with my gel pens, I'm going to adhere these panels onto their card bases. So my card bases are made of black cardstock. They are 5 by 7, so it's an A7 card. These are large cards, and I've just used my glue stick to adhere my panels down. Really simple. And again, they're basically like one layer cards, so these are great for mailing, and they are pretty non-gender specific, so they could really go they could be male cards or female cards. And that's it. So if you want any more product info, please visit waffleflower.com, and you can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook for more creative ideas. Have a wonderful day.